Today I am visiting French Farm Lake, which is way up at the very top of Michigan's Lower Peninsula, just to the southwest of Mackinaw City. French Farm Lake Campground isn't necessarily an official state forest or national forest campground, so you're not going to find a billboard with any information on it here in the campground. You're not going to find a registration station, a pay pole, anything like that. You're going to just pull in and find yourself an empty campsite, which there are 6 of throughout this campground, and you're going to just park and set your stuff up. I'm parked here in campsite number 1, and as I'm walking around in here, you can see campsite number 1 is pretty massive. It's big enough to back in whatever rig you're hauling down here, even if the road conditions getting here don't allow for you to bring it back. The road here isn't necessarily a narrow 2-track, but it's a dirt road that's in somewhat rough shape. You can easily get back here with almost any rig, unless you're pulling something with a semi. That might just be too big. Crazy me, I thought if I climbed this hill that there's a little trail on going out of campsite number 1, I'd climb up and have a nice scenic view, or I'd view another campsite, or something remarkable up here, and I was wrong. It's definitely not a long climb, but it's pretty steep and it's sandy, and there's nothing worse than climbing in sand. However, I'm going to follow this trail that goes off in a different direction here and show you a neat spot to play if you have children that you're bringing with you. There is a little bit of trash laying around out in here. The problem with this being a not designated campground is it's not necessarily patrolled as often as you would think by the DNR. And there's no garbage cans here to put your garbage in, so sometimes people just leave it behind. Also, there's no outhouse and no water source. So if somebody has to go, they've got to go out in the woods, and not everybody's respectful about packing out what they pack in or burying their mess with the 6-inch deep rule. Now, I thought this was super neat. It's a nice sandy area. It's like the largest sandbox you're going to find up in this area. So it's a great spot if you have kids to send them off to play. Just keep a close eye on them because you are way up in northern Michigan and you never know what kind of wildlife is lurking around. I'm walking into campsite number 2 right here. It's up the road far enough that I actually drove and parked my vehicle. None of these campsites are on top of one another. I'm not going to get too close and be invasive. But you can see there's like a little drive that goes into campsite number 2. You can pull straight in with your trailer, pop-up camper, whatever you're traveling with. There is plenty of space to get it in number 1 and number 2. Again, venturing way down the road here, we're going to come up to the next turn. You can see there's a trail that kind of jogged off to the side there. You're going to get a better view of it up here in a minute. This campground, because of that trail, is an excellent spot to stay the night if you're backpacking the North Country Trail National Scenic Trail. There's a parking spot right here if you want to park your vehicle and do an out and back hike, or if you need to spot a vehicle for overnight trips, there's one parking space and that's right there. It can hold probably 3 or 4 vehicles at the most. And coming up here, I'm going to actually veer off and hike the North Country Trail just a little bit. Before I do that, we're going to walk past campsite number 3, which is ridiculous. The size of this campsite right here, you could fit probably 30 tents or more on it. You could fit several little pop-up campers, travel trailers. There's so much space for just one campsite. So oftentimes what people do, since there's only 5 or 6 sites to begin with, they just pull up and group camp. Did I mention that since there's no registration station and since there's no pay pole, this is free. You actually don't have to pay to stay here at French Farm Lake. I seen one poll where somebody put up some information for their campsite, but typically people do not pay to camp here. You could try to call and register with the DNR for a campsite, but every time I've stayed here, I've just stayed for free. Now, this is the first view that we really have for French Farm Lake. And I'm hiking on the North Country Trail to get that view. You can see by the blue blazes painted on the trees that I'm following the North Country Trail. I've already hiked here before. Me and my friend actually did the entire trail that runs from Ohio up across the UP into Wisconsin. And it's kind of nice to be back on the trail in a section that I've only done once. I remember this section up through here in northern Michigan being especially beautiful. If you're interested in hiking, I definitely recommend you get online and look up some North Country trail maps for northern Michigan. Back on the road, you can tell this is actually a super quiet campground right now, but on busy weekends and holiday weekends, it does fill up pretty fast, and people can bring their generators and make all kinds of noise here. When I pulled in, there was a DNR officer down here. He waved as I went by, but they typically don't patrol this a ton because they're not really making any money off it. Hiking past campsite number 3 here. It's a little bit smaller than the other campsites that I've hiked by, but my goodness, it can still hold an entire fifth wheel, plus if you needed to back one in here. I don't even know how to describe how huge some of these campsites are here. They're absolutely massive for a free campsite. The only downfall, like I've said, you don't get any accommodations with this, except you get a boat launch up here in a little bit that I'll show you. I think I'm going to veer back off here on the North Country Trail, and I'm going to give you a better view of French Farm Lake up here in a minute. This is a popular lake for people looking to come out and do some panfish fishing, chase down some northern pike, and do a little bit of bass fishing while they're out here as well. The lake isn't a very deep one by any means. It averages only about 10 feet deep in its deepest point, which really makes this ideal for smaller boats, kayaks, or canoes if you're coming up here to go out on the water and do some fishing. Just around the corner here, we're going to get out by the little beach area that I saw and give you a good view of the water. Popping back out into the campground from the North Country Trail, I came right to the boat launch and parking area here. You can see it's a plenty big enough parking area. It makes me think that maybe during the right season, it really fills up with people that are out here fishing quite a bit. I was going to head back towards my vehicle, but I realized there's more campsites down this way. I knew I hadn't seen all of them, but I didn't know which direction they were in. These are the last two campsites in the campground, and again, they're kind of big and scattered all over the place. There's several different areas to pull up to these campsites and to pull off the road and camp, and these last little bunch aren't really marked very well. So I feel like it's just a free-for-all. You can come, pull in, and just camp wherever through here. I'm going to sneak on back this way real quick here at the end of this video and give you a good view. There is people here, and there's a generator running, so I'm going to try to be quiet and not disturb the folks that are trying to enjoy the quiet camping atmosphere.